Welcome to this edition of Mental Wellness during COVID-19. I'm Linda Hall, Director of the Office of Children's Mental Health. Our office focuses on supporting Wisconsin's children in achieving their optimal social and emotional well-being. In this time of safe at home and social distancing, we want to know how the pandemic is affecting the work of our collective impact partners and their thoughts on how children's mental health might be affected long-term. Today, we're talking with Collective Impact Partner Beth Herman. Beth is a school mental health training consultant with the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. Welcome, Beth. We're delighted to talk with you. So let's
It's
start
nice to
with
talk
your
with you too.
role. Yeah, we're glad you could be a part with us today. Let's start with your role as a school mental health training consultant and what excites you about your work.
So I really love the opportunity to work directly with schools and districts in looking at how they're creating comprehensive mental health systems. And I just love being able to have that person-to-person contact, being able to know what people are doing. There's so much fabulous stuff going on in the state, and I get to be a party to observing that.
Terrific. So has COVID-19 changed what you do at work, and in what ways has it changed?
In some ways, it hasn't changed it at all. I'm a member of a team that has been supporting school mental health work across the state for the last few years at the department, and we continue to do that. What has changed is that we've had to pivot our focus a bit to the acute situation that's occurring. So as schools have moved very, very quickly into trying to do virtual online education, our community and school mental health providers have been trying to figure out how to move supporting student mental health into a virtual environment. And as we move into the potential of moving back into schools, trying to figure out how this may shift or change the way that they provide these services. So while it hasn't changed at all, the acute focus has around supporting mental health in a virtual world.
And what are some of the things that you are doing during this time to stay connected to these folks at schools?
So we've been offering a weekly community of practice call. Our mental health team at the department engages anywhere from 200 to 400 some individuals that are interested in how to continue supporting mental health of students while they're out of school. And those have included some topic-specific discussions around how do you manage crisis management and suicide prevention when students aren't in your proximity, and how do you support student social emotional learning and trauma informed responses in this kind of situation. And then it provides an opportunity for the folks that are joining the call to share what they're doing. There's so many great ideas out there. It was really designed to be an exchange and an opportunity for people to feel connected to one another. We've also been creating different types of guidance documents. One of our initials was to just roll out at the request of an administrator a list of all of our online training materials all in one location so they could find them. So we've been trying to make sure that we stay connected through office hour calls for our individual sorts of projects and these community practice calls and guidance tools.
So I have had the opportunity to participate in some of the community of practice calls, and for someone who's interested in children's mental health policy, it's been very helpful for us to hear what the school social workers and counselors are concerned about, and for us to think about that from a policy perspective. That kind of leads into our next question, which is, as we think about moving past COVID-19, we wonder if this crisis is an opportunity to adapt and innovate to correct system flaws. What do you see that we might carry forward for lasting impact on children's mental health?
Well, for me, when I think about moving it forward, I'm thinking short term because there are so many unknowns. But I think one of the things that we've learned is that schools are powerful places to reach students and families. And our practitioners are sharing with us oftentimes that their frustration is that they've lost contact and touch with some of them. because they've moved to these virtual environments, they can't go and do house visits like they used to do. Sometimes families aren't responsive to calls. So we recognize the value, I believe we really recognize the value of brick and mortar schools and the role that this mental health providers in those buildings play. However, I do think that there's the potential to move the idea of teletherapy forward. And that's not just because we are in this virtual school situation, which may end up happening yet again. We don't know whether we're going to have cycles of closures and openings. And even when we have openings, we're still going to have portions of children who probably aren't going to feel safe, or families won't feel safe sending them. So schools are going to need to look at a blended approach to both academic education and social, emotional, and mental health. But I do think that our rural communities who have been dealing with severe shortages of mental health providers may find the opportunity to begin a teletherapy practice that could carry through once we return to a more normalized sorts of environment, and that the policy changes that have occurred around telehealth have been very beneficial for practitioners, because it's given them more space to use that particular technology. I also think that the notion of a one-size-fits-all therapeutic kind of approach where there has to be this therapist in person face-to-face, I think it's a very powerful and strong and probably the predominant modality. But I do think that in many ways, being able to check in, and it doesn't even have to be considered therapy, but just check and connect with kids when we can't find them or see them, but being able to do that virtually has a benefit. And I think it can be pretty powerful in maintaining those connections moving forward.
So a lot to consider, and see how things shift out after we get back to something a little more normal than what we've had the last few months, and some new possibilities for how to connect with kids and to support their well-being. So thank you, Beth, for your insights with
Absolutely.
us today. And for those of you who are listening, we wish you and your family good health during these times.